Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Good. Maya, this
Good.
is Emily.
Hello. This is
Hi.
Maya.
Cute baby.
this is Lily.
Very cute. Very sweet.
Thank you. She's still waking up.
Oh, perfect.
She's so cute. Anyways, I've told Emily little bits about you before.
Mhm.
We've definitely talked about
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just
But
adjusting.
um,
Absolutely.
how was your week?
Oh, it was so good.
Yeah.
It was great. Yep.
What'd you
Did
guys
the
do for New
whole
Year's?
New Year's resolution. We stayed up till like 10. So,
Yep. We were just talking about that.
it
Pretty
it
much what we
loses its
did.
appeal to
Yep.
stay up all night. Yep. But the kids had fun. Teenagers had fun. And then me and Cody decided we're going to do like a 9-week training camp. So we've been working out and pumping some iron this
Nice.
week.
Okay.
Oh,
Maybe I'll do that too.
okay.
10
But
weeks.
this has got to have like an
When does 10 weeks end?
the end of March.
Okay. I'm coming
So
to Utah in March.
Ooh.
are you what week?
The week of my dad's birthday, the 23rd.
Okay, keep me informed because we may have things. So we need to make sure this works. So
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah. Because we could hike the Y.
okay, awesome. We need to.
Anyways,
We need to. This is my summer of hiking, but that will be for another time.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so anyways, welcome back to our little white picket fence.
You look
I'm
beautiful, by the way.
say huh?
Sorry, I said you look beautiful, by the way.
Doesn't she
And
look
yes,
gorgeous?
Thank you.
yes,
So does Emily always.
Mhm.
We do lashes for
we do
podcast.
lashes on.
On Fridays we do lashes.
That is what we do.
Yeah.
But yes,
Anyway,
welcome back.
so today we were already going to be talking about basically tipping and like the tipping culture. I think that kind of changed with like the COVID pandemic and everything. And
Pandemic.
Maya, she works as a server right now. We used to work
Mhm.
together as servers, so I figured this would
Mhm.
be a pretty good one for
Mhm.
her to join, and she was coming over anyway. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Perfect.
yeah.
Yeah, and I
So
think you're right. I think, well, do you want to start at the very beginning? Do you know why we tip in America?
because we don't pay well
Why
enough
it became a
to
thing? Well,
live off
even
of what.
before that, in like the early days of America, when we started getting some more wealthy Americans, and they would travel to Europe, they would see tipping over there, and they came back and they're like, it's our job to tip those who are beneath us. You know what I mean? It was a very aristocratic thing to do, and it was frowned upon at first. Like people were like, this isn't America, this isn't what we want to do, but it caught on anyway. And
Okay.
I read too, didn't prohibition play a big part in tipping, I think, as well as when
probably.
everything went underground, like speakeasies, like that's how you paid your bartenders was in tip, it's like you tipped them, and
Yeah,
I
that
think
makes
that
sense.
it
Yeah, that makes total sense.
kind of stemmed from there.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then obviously we've kind of always, you had your servers who you tipped, and I think
Hmm.
hairdressers and things like that normally get tipped. Although I
Yeah.
definitely wonder sometimes, I'm like, what am I paying so much for the hair for? Like, who's getting that money?
Right.
Who's getting that money if I need to then tip you? Because I totally get the server
Mhm.
thing because I work in that industry and I know that hourly they're not really paid very well.
Well, a lot of stylists
Her
don't.
sister's a
Yeah,
stylist
my
too,
mom,
so
yeah. My mom and my sister both have been hairstylists. They don't own their own shop, so a lot of times you're renting a chair. You're either renting a
Yeah.
chair or you are actually like basically paying commission. So it's like you might not even be getting paid like per client, you're getting paid per hour. I mean, that's not the
Hmm.
norm, but I know that's part of where the tipping comes in with that. But another thing, like tattoo artists, it's like you're supposed to tip like 20% on tattoo artists, and it's like I've started seeing a woman who's incredible, but if you get like a half sleeve, you're paying like $1,200 for a tattoo.
Yeah.
Like, you're supposed to tip 20% on top of that, and it's like she owned her
It's a
own shop.
lot.
So I was like, really though, why am I giving you I mean, you're doing a phenomenal job, but
yeah.
it's
But
like
I'm paying for the work
I'm
that's
paying for
being
the work that
done.
you're
Yeah.
doing. Yeah. So it's like
Yeah.
it is hard, but at the same time, it's like I work as a server and
Yeah, but your your money's paying for the work that she's doing. The tip for us is is
the
literally
money
just
that-
the money
yes,
we
that
get.
we
Like we don't get the money for the food.
Right,
So it feels
exactly.
completely different
Yeah.
than all the other
Mhm.
things.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, and I don't
Yes.
know if you've noticed, have you noticed that people have been complaining about tipping their service workers now, though, because the tips are expected everywhere else?
It is.
So it's affecting
Everywhere.
the tips of the people who truly depend
Mhm.
on the tips.
I was thinking about that
Mhm.
last night. I'm like, and you brought up because of COVID, and
Mhm.
it's it's since that so much stuff went to goes, and but really, I think it's become an excuse of big corporations to not pay your worker. It's a
Yeah.
way to draw workers to your jobs. Like, look, we have competitive pay. You can make tips without ever actually raising your wages,
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
that's why, and it's getting so out of hand, and it's like, and it's putting the blame on the people who need the money. It's putting the blame on the service workers. Like, why are you asking for my tips? And it's like, they're not the ones asking for your tips. They didn't put that button on the computer. Their corporations put that button on the computer to tip them because they don't want to pay them more. They want you to pay them more, and it's
Mhm.
like, and really, I think that we should, tip those other people, but if you can afford to. I don't think that everyone should be expected to tip in those scenarios anymore. I mean, if you're going to go out to eat, we're paying to take the table, if like, because we have to tip out
Yeah,
bussers and stuff
bussers
like
and
that as
stuff.
servers,
Mhm.
we have to pay to take tables. So if you're stiffing your server, you're actually making them pay to take care of you. But
Yeah.
in other areas, it's a little, I'm like, I think if you got it, you should, but
Yeah. I was watching TikToks earlier just
Mhm.
about tipping, just trying to get it for other outside of service
Mhm.
like views for it. And it was a hairdresser who was talking about how she's like, I do not expect tips. I appreciate it,
Mhm.
but I honestly don't expect it. But she works for herself, which I think makes a big difference.
Yes.
And I think, like she was saying, Kate, I think corporations are kind of a huge part of it because they saw it as a way to not have to pay their people.
Mhm.
And
Well, in the beginning, waiters and waitresses were paid a wage, like they were paid just a wage. And I think, in my opinion, that employers got a little bit greedy. They're like, they saw that people were like you could bring in quite a bit of money in tips. And they're like, oh, well, in that case, we can pay you less.
Mhm.
But that shouldn't be the case at all. I mean, it should be completely separate. An employer should pay their employee, period. Right?
agreed,
And
agreed.
it should
And
be
tipping
a
can be a
wage,
thing that people do
period.
because they appreciate
Mhm.
the service that's
Yeah,
being
it's
given to them.
extra.
Yeah.
Tipping is extra in, definition of tipping. It's something on top to say, thank you for your service. Thank you for
Mhm.
going above and beyond for me. Sorry, my kids were a-holes. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
there could be a plethora of reasons, but that shouldn't take away from the fact that employers need to pay their employees, period.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And while that's the
And
truth of it,
mhm,
unfortunately, people
That's
act
not the
like that, and
reality of
that's not the
it.
reality of
Yeah.
it. So,
yeah, it's not.
because when they
So,
complain about the tipping, it's like just
Mhm.
go home and eat then,
Yeah.
because you're quite literally paying for a servant.
Yes.
That's what you're
well,
paying.
and that
You could get the
that brings
food
up
to take
another
it
point.
home.
Mhm.
What's the other point? Sorry.
The other point is right now you've got the servers, waitresses, waiters, and
Yeah.
the like, and you have the people tipping, and you have them kind of fighting each other, but you're ignoring that we should both be uniting, not against the companies. I'm not against the companies, but the problem is the amount they're being paid to begin with. It's not that, you should tip more and we deserve to be tipped more, and
Mhm.
you do deserve to be making more money, and it should be on the people that run your company. And if they need to raise the prices of food and things, so be it, because that's how
I'll tell you, they
the
do that anyways. As
Mhm.
inflation goes up,
yeah.
they do raise the
Hmm.
price, but I'll tell you what doesn't go up.
Your
Wages.
wages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all the time I get, and I'm 100% with you. And that's where we need to go. But I think it is important to talk about the right now that it, remember that whole thing where it was like people getting mad, like if you can't tip, don't go out to eat, and people
Mhm.
getting all upset about
Yeah.
that, like that's exclusive. And it's like, yes, but you also know how our society
Mhm.
works. You know that that's how it is right now, even if we want it to be
Mhm.
different. So
Yeah.
how do you feel about that? Do you feel like if you can't tip that you should still be going out and eating at restaurants?
Depends on the restaurant. If you are not wanting to tip and you go to a Burger King, I think that's
That's
just
not what I
fine.
said though. I
I
meant
think
if you're not
no,
ready
you
to tip.
sit
I'm just talking
down.
about servers. Like if you're planning on
Mhm.
taking a seat in somebody's section, which is essentially their office
Yeah.
for the day, and the way that they're
Make
going to
their money.
make their money, if
Yeah.
you go in knowing you're not going to tip, because I believe people,
Mhm.
like I mean, I'm sure there are times where people have like bad service things, but there are some people that just really do not tip or just don't tip well at
Yeah.
all.
And it's
The
becoming
one,
Mhm.
yeah, the one that chaps my hide a little bit is when my daughter would come home from being a server all day and she'd have like a big table of people come in and they tip her with the $1,000 bill with Jesus loves you on the back or whatever. It's
Yeah.
like, really? Stop it.
He
Just
didn't
stop
even
it.
like that.
No, she hates it. She can't believe the audacity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jesus is not paying my bills.
Yeah.
No, no.
Like,
And because servers get paid so little, yes, at a sit down place where servers are getting paid less because you're tipping, you need to tip.
yeah.
Mhm.
You know, you're bringing up another point. It's not about tipping at all, but people do tend to leave a lot of things like that, like they're trying to do their missionary work. And I
Mhm.
get it because I used to be one of those people. But on the other side of it, it is so annoying now, especially when the tip is like very underwhelming.
Mhm.
And then you're
Uh-huh.
given this thing like inviting you to a church or something. And I'm like, I should start having something to give back that just has my beliefs on it. But I think everything you're saying and believing is bullshit. Like you could just keep that to yourself and give me your shitty tip. I don't need that.
Uh-huh.
Like everything you think is gonna make people feel something is just you projecting it.
Mhm.
You're the only one feeling it. Please keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
To anybody out there
You're
who's giving out those things to people
yeah.
and feeling like, oh,
Oh, I
this
did
is,
something
I'm doing,
today.
like, you're doing it for yourself, acknowledge that. And if that's what you need for
Mhm.
yourself to feel better, I guess keep doing it. But honestly, for me and for the other servers that I know, some, if they happen to be of that faith, find it, they're like, oh, that's so nice. You because they are that. But
Mhm.
for
Well, and if you're gonna
everybody
throw
else,
that
it's
out there, leave it on top of a ginormous tip. I mean, I'd
Yeah.
be like, oh,
yeah.
thanks. If you leave
Convince
me
me.
$100
Like,
tip
convince
and
me
if
by
you're
your faith. Show me what's good about what you believe in. Then we can
yeah,
talk.
yeah, let's leave some good feelings there.
I'd be like, you
And I can
know
be like,
what?
you're right, he does.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That was very generous. I feel different about this
Yes.
now.
See how
Uh,
the whole feelings change right there. No.
yeah.
Okay, the one that I really struggle with, like I would say that we're good tippers. We tend to like revolve the same couple of restaurants and we feel like the servers are our friends and
Yeah.
um and we try to tip generously and I have zero hard feelings there, none. But
Yeah.
it's when I go to like Costa Vida and I just walk through the line, tell them what I need, and they're like, "Would you like to leave an 18% tip?" And I'm like, "No, I
Yes.
just paid you for your food. Like, I don't want to be guilted into a tip. I don't want to, I don't know. I feel a little 80-year-old crotchety old person when I do that, but it's like
But you're not, and of
Mhm.
course they want
I'm
the tip because,
yeah.
they're
They
not,
make more money.
they want to make more money. But like you said before, it goes back to not being paid a real livable
Mhm.
wage in the first place. Like I do think we need to somehow take a step back. I another one I came across was somebody talking about how their dad he was having the car serviced and they turned it around and there was the option to tip. And he's like, I tip. Like I always
Yeah.
did tip because that's something that he did because he was well to do. And he was like, and I
Yeah,
didn't because it felt like so
a
actually
little
the corporations
grift.
putting it there asking for it, thinking they're doing a good job, actually stole a tip from somebody that day because it
Mhm.
felt like also, okay, if I give them something cash, that's different. But if
Mhm.
you're asking me to put it into your system
Yeah.
as a tip,
Yeah,
it's for the company
feels
and not the
icky.
person.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Not only that, but a lot of those systems, the company will then take 50% of the tips.
Mhm.
And
I
so
always
so
kind
the
of like
people,
question, but it's like I have no idea the reality of it.
yeah, I watched a few videos and yeah, there's some companies that all of the tips go into a pot at the end, 50% goes back to the company, and then they divvy it out between all of the
Mhm.
service workers, all the busboys, all the dishwashers and things, which I also think isn't really fair. I mean, there's a couple different theories of thought there. because there are things like pretty privilege. If you've got a young hot waitress, she's going to make a ton more than, some 50-year-old
That's the
not,
same in
yeah,
literally every
that's
industry,
Mhm.
though.
in
And
every
it
industry.
exists, and
So
that's partially because we've glorified it as like, we like pretty things, and if you're just naturally pretty, you're better.
yeah,
That's pretty
that's
much, yeah. Thankfully, we
just
are
how it goes.
getting a
So
little away from that with people being like, no, our value is not only in our looks, but
yeah.
that just
But
is,
as a service worker, if you kick butt and you're like, I'm at the table every few minutes filling up water and I'm asking if you need anything and not being overbearing, but like I'm not screwing up your orders. If I'm kicking butt and taking names and I get a huge tip and that has to go to everybody, it's a little disheartening. Like,
Yeah.
no, that's if somebody's tipping me, they're tipping me. And if
yeah.
I want to share
Thankfully,
that with the people in the back too, that's
yeah.
I did work when I first moved down here, I worked at a restaurant. I'm not gonna name, but it was a different culture and they had immigrants from another country that they paid a flat rate, $100 a day, and they would work open to close, and any tips that they made as a server went to the house. So like the restaurant, yeah. I'm like
That's bullshit.
very shady.
Very
But
shady, yeah.
yeah, definitely it was a different, different culture, it wasn't
That even if it's a different
yeah,
culture, that
I'm
was
not saying it's
taking
okay.
advantage of
Yeah, no,
people.
I'm
Yeah.
saying not
yeah,
saying it's
just
okay, but it was very
Yeah.
didn't stay there long.
Yeah.
yeah.
Wonder what you're supposed to do or what you should do. Like just
That's
because
the thing. I felt terrible for their workers. I wanted to do something to report them, but it's like they weren't here legally, I don't
yeah.
believe.
So
So it's
then
like
you
Yeah.
could
they
have
were at the mercy of these
that
owners.
is
And that's,
how I was just I'm doing my continuing education for dental hygiene and I'm on the human trafficking course right now. And it was talking about how so much of the human trafficking, like the sex trafficking gets a lot of the like
Mhm.
news because it's very, horrific and it should,
Yeah.
but most of it is actually labor.
Yep.
And it's
Mhm.
things like that where people are in situations, they're trying to get a better, life for them because everybody's just trying to freaking live on this flying rock through space.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. um,
Yeah. And to come
yeah, I
here
was
and feel
going
like your
somewhere,
only
sorry. I
option
got
is
distracted for a
no
second.
to
No, that's okay.
to
I'm just
to
very
come here and
easily
feel like
distracted.
your only option is to like work for pennies and because you're illegal and you don't want to get deported and then a lot
Yeah,
of the times
and if
people
they
use that
treat you
against you
bad,
too
what
like
can you
if you
do? They're just gonna
Mhm.
report you. You can't report them.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I've heard of some even like taking passports and holding them hostage and like
Mhm.
just just guys, if you're gonna have a company, just pay your employees.
if
Do
only
it
if
right,
only that would work,
Right.
If only
right?
we could,
Yeah, for
please,
real.
guys, please.
Please, I said
Don't
so,
be
so do
mean.
That
it.
was slave labor, okay?
Right?
Seriously.
No
Like,
more
no,
slavery.
no.
The sad thing
Did
is
you know
like
you
that's
were
literally
doing
how they're
that?
treated when they're caught. A lot of these places, I'm like
Yeah,
so many of these
a
places that
fine and a smack
no,
on the hand.
no, bad. Like I'm sorry.
You
That's
pulled in $6 billion this year,
yes.
so $50,000 fine for you. Like, oh,
Hmm.
here, I got that in
Yes.
my pocket.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
let's
So they that just made me so angry
I'm
because then
sorry.
no, it makes me want to go on like a whole
A whole
rant about
rant.
yeah. Where I'm just like because we then feel so powerless because we could sit here and talk about how annoying this is and how it should be different, but then we know that nobody's being held accountable, and without somebody being held accountable, and I mean the people who actually should be held accountable,
uh-huh.
it can't get better. But how can we hold them freaking accountable? I need those
We
superpowers from the
just
last podcast.
right? Yes,
It feels like without
we need
superpowers
people
or a freaking
lobbying and
hero, maybe if some
yeah,
aliens could come along, guys.
exactly.
Okay,
We need some
we're ready.
representation in
We're
government.
ready. I mean, they say you're here.
Right. You're
I'm
listening.
welcome. You can't make
Well,
it any worse than they have.
the things we need to do are we need to get people in government who think like that and who do have some pull, and then we need to hold politicians accountable who are letting the
Yeah, well,
lobbyists
it
come in
can't
and
have to cost millions of dollars to get there, though. You
Yeah,
know what
I
I
know
mean?
that
Like
blows.
they've literally
Mhm.
made it so Joe Schmo can't just be like, hey, I have some good ideas. He has to like fundraise. I'm like, it's all about
Yeah,
money in this
it's
stupid
all about
fucking
money.
system we could continue to live with.
One one thing we are doing that has been shown, there are several restaurants now, and by several I mean in several states, where they actually pay their employees a livable wage. They're allowed to make some tips, I think, but tipping is optional.
Yeah.
And they kind of make that known.
People know that.
And
Yeah.
food prices have not gone up substantially. They're competitive with everything else around them. And more people have been coming. They get increased foot traffic because people just like that business model. And if you're making more money, other businesses will follow.
Yeah, it'd be
That's just,
cool. I would be really down for that anyways, because as
yeah,
much as it is nice to like make the tips if you go above beyond, I think you still might, you know what I mean? Because it still is a
yeah.
service industry and you still do you
Hmm.
get your regulars and you make, you make their experience better because you know them, you know what they want, and you make their life easier for them and they appreciate that.
Hmm.
So I still think there's always going to be that, but then just your Joe Schmoes coming in like to eat, like not
Yeah.
feeling like they have to do it. I think that I'd be
Hmm.
for that. What do you think?
Well,
I personally, I think that the way our country and system is set up, I don't think that we can do away with tipping culture completely in the service
yeah.
industry. Because I think if all restaurants were to do that, food costs, I mean, I hate to say this, but food costs would go up. And because it's not, I
Mhm.
mean, they shouldn't, because the cost of paying your workers should come from the people at the top who are making too much money anyway, not
Yes.
from what you're paying for the
However,
food. But
the
and as someone who works in the
oh,
industry, I will say a lot of people will leave. A lot of people have already left the industry since COVID, because tips have gone down. But if you take away tips, you're not going to have any people left in the industry, because that's why people are in it. I mean, you can't
yeah,
pay these servers what they're making right now. Like
This is
what,
true. We
and
yeah,
I work 2 days a week and I make enough to pay most of my bills and then burn, so we don't have to pay work for childcare. If they cannot, there is no way that First Watch could afford to pay me what I make, and like I wouldn't be able to
nor
do
should
that.
they.
yeah.
And
When I tip somebody, like when I'm like, you've done a dang good job, here's a
yeah.
tip. I'm hoping that they can use that tip to then go do something fun or like add enjoyment to their life. Not
Mhm.
here you go, now you can pay your heat. Like
Yes.
like it's
But
not
that's
me
what it is. Like,
bestowing.
That's what
like,
it
thank you,
is.
here's my phone bill. Like,
So if people,
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying though. I think that people for good service will still like the regulars, like still
Mhm.
will
yeah,
give something. Because just
yeah.
like
There
how,
needs to be some kind of tipping culture. Like that's okay. It just can't be in place of wages. Like,
Mhm.
yeah,
and I don't want that social anxiety of staring down that um the little tablet that's like,
Yeah.
okay, it's gonna ask you a little question here.
I think tipping
And
culture in the other industries, like where people are already making like minimum wage. I mean, not the minimum wage is anything to brag about, but you know what I mean. Um,
yeah,
but where you're not solely relying on those tips, where they're trying to push them, I think we need to pull that back. I don't think that those are
like when you get your
absolutely.
tires rotated or something,
yes, or
you're like,
We
okay,
we went bowling on New Year's and they're like, okay, would you like to add a tip? And the smallest one was like 20. And I'm like, really? For bowling? You guys, I'm
for
paying
bowling.
$80 for my kids to chuck a ball down the lane and I need to pay an extra 20%.
seriously.
Thanks. Seriously.
When you said the anxiety of the check coming though, I think since becoming a server again, my anxiety has gotten higher because I
Yeah.
feel the need to tip really well. Like I do. And I see it with my
Yeah.
coworkers. Like one time we went to, was it Texas Roadhouse? Were you there?
Yes, and we all tipped up notch.
It was not like honestly, I tipped 20% because I had just started working there. And
Yeah.
I felt like I had just walked out without paying my entire bill. Like I was like, girls, what? And they were all
Carly
like,
always leaves like $50.
seriously, like servers leave the biggest tips too because we just know what a difference, like a big tip,
Yes,
you know what I
it
mean?
makes your night.
Like what
Mhm.
it makes your day, it can make your week. So like do know that
Yeah.
when you are really generous, if you give someone something like really good, like you're
Mhm.
making a big difference. So not to say you should do that
Yeah.
every time, but we feel that anxiety on a level too for sure. Like, oh my God, like I have to tip even more because I know even
Huh?
more.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I love that. I love that feeling, the interaction with people and to be like, hey, thanks for putting up with us for a whole night. Go have, I hope this boosts your mood. That's
Yeah.
awesome. But if you're having to do that for like every fast food place you go,
No.
Yeah.
that's not everyone can afford that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What do you
People are
think,
feeling the
Lily?
pinch everywhere. People are feeling the pinch everywhere. And if you have to add an extra 15% onto everything you're doing, it it sucks. It
Yeah.
really sucks.
Yeah. Like I don't want to get my nails done. I don't want to get my hair done. Like it's already expensive. I don't do it anyways.
Uh-huh.
Like I'm just not really that person, but I would like to be able to do it without feeling that way. But like just the whole idea of somebody owning it and the people doing the work having to like give so much of the portion of what they're doing to a corporation, like we got to get
Stop it,
away
guys.
from
Just
like
stop
our
it.
corporate overlords. We really do. Like
Hmm.
we've got to somehow get back to like
Small business
small
model.
business model. Like across
Mhm.
like work cohesively, but
Well, it would be nice if you could have the small business model with the convenience of the big ones because they do offer a lot of, they offer a
you
lot,
can. Anthony worked for a
but there has to
company
be.
that it was a co-op of paper companies. And as a co-op, they could still get that buying power and stuff like that. So it's
Yep.
just that now the corporations have gotten so large and it's just I don't know. I think they pushed so
Doesn't
many
work.
of those, but there was a happy median. It's just that people are so greedy. And then we find that we have or at least I think that there are so many people working in a lot of corporations that once you get like down to the nitty gritty of it, like half the people working for a company sometimes aren't actually working for the company that's working. You know what I mean? Like us
Yeah.
at our restaurant, we had a bunch of higher ups come in the other day, and it was like bosses, bosses, up 5 times,
Yeah.
and they
Hmm.
sat at a
Like, how
table
many of
and
you
they
guys could
ordered.
we get rid of?
Exactly. I'm just like, how do we need this many levels of when we're doing the work?
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like it just feels, and obviously I'm not the one doing it, and I think I work for a pretty good corporation out of all the corporations. Like I'm pretty happy with the
Hmm.
way that they treat their employees and things like that. So, but I still just see it feels like there's so much like waste. Like I don't know. They
Hmm.
came in and sat at a table and ordered like 10 things and didn't eat any of them. They were just looking at the plating. And we were so busy that they all sat in the back because they were like, oh, the servers can eat it. And it was just cold and got thrown away. And I'm just like,
It's
you guys
such a
have no
What?
like
waste.
it's such a waste. It's like you just don't think like the workers do at all. Like they're like
No.
what you're pay I don't know. But I know there's some value to it because obviously the company does well, but it just feels like there's got to be so much waste in there. And it's just weird to me.
When we opened that
Yeah.
the store, the one in Wildwood,
Mhm.
they made every single dish on the menu, but because it was COVID times, like we couldn't eat any of it.
Oh,
So
no.
they literally like we watched all this food get made and get thrown right in the trash. I'm like, every
That hurts.
single thing on our menu was made and thrown away. I'm just like,
Oh,
why? This is such a waste. I'm like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. It was just sickening to me. I'm like, thinking of like start people that we could just take this to in our local community that could eat this, let
yeah.
alone us.
Yeah.
Like we're here
So
hungry,
many people.
but yeah,
Well,
Yeah. Sorry, I'm
and
taking us off topic.
yes.
I do
no,
that
you're
a
good.
lot.
One thing that you said before was that it would raise prices and things and of food. But they're finding that in other countries where tipping is not the norm, and you have these McDonald's and you have these other restaurants that are both here in America and over there, the prices are about the same. They don't have to change very much. In fact, somebody did the math on what it would do, like how much Burger King would have to raise the price of each burger to pay for healthcare for all of its employees, and it was like 30 cents. Like
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
you
and
could do it
that's
that
even
easily
saying
and you're
that you're
not
going to
doing
put it
it.
on the public instead of having any of the people at the top take a cut
Hmm.
because they are making such
Well,
ridiculous amounts of money that don't make sense. That and I know
yeah.
that I believe that the person who made it should make a large amount, but it's so outrageous
It's
Hmm.
that
becoming obscene.
they continue to expect just the common person trying to partake to make up the
Hmm.
difference in all these things. I was actually going to say something about this anyways because I had seen one of them. I think it was about eggs, and it was showing how like they've been driving up the cost, but they've been making record profits. Every industry is making record profits. So the driving up the cost is it's just greed.
Because they can.
It's because
It's
they can.
arbitrary.
So I don't believe it would raise either, because even in the other countries, like it might be McDonald's or something, where they pay them a livable wages. I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure their Big Mac's cheaper.
Yeah.
So it's yeah,
So they do it here
scare
because they
people by
can.
saying things like that. What I think one of the things Maya was saying was talking about that the service industry workers would leave,
Yeah.
which because they wouldn't be able to
Make the money.
make that same amount, so they would
Like
need
your
But if you
bartender,
allow
you
tipping
waitresses
still,
and
your bar.
all
Yeah,
that.
you could allow it, but it's just if it's not like required. So it
yeah.
might end up making servers end up make less. But if I don't know, I still
Well,
hope
then
that some
if
people
people want
would, but
other people to staff their restaurants and things, then you gotta pay for it. I mean,
yeah. I mean, because serving, you're quite literally learning, paying to have a servant.
Mhm.
mhm.
Like, and
Yeah.
because we do work on that tipping model, and you're basically not getting paid if you're not being, we have to let people get away with being such assholes.
Mhm.
And
The other day we
Yeah.
had this is a case that I think our manager probably should have handled better and it shouldn't have gone this far.
yeah,
But there was a man that was so upset, like he got sat and was greeted within 2 minutes, but it wasn't fast enough for him. And he was so upset, our manager went and moved him to a different section and to this like this little small server. She's like, you can de-escalate the situation. We found out he had a gun like on him, and like this man,
Oh
and
my.
we're like they're in the back like joking about like, oh, he's got a gun, but it's like that's actually very, I'm like, this man is in here acting completely outrageous
yeah.
and he's threatening our safety, and yet we're still serving him. We still feel
Yeah.
like we still feel obligated to serve
still
him.
owe
Like,
him
why?
service.
I'm like, why was he not barred on that day? Why would he ever be allowed to come into the restaurant with that type of behavior, especially knowing that he, is carrying
Yeah,
around a gun?
they just don't
Yeah,
say
for real.
no
That's your
to, they just
personal
don't say
safety.
no to the customer. I
Mhm.
find that so much. During COVID, I would get so angry because I would be trying to I'm just trying to enforce the rules that the
Mhm.
corporation has set up. But when people would say no to things, and I'd be like, well, then I can't sit you, and they'd sit anyways, and then we would still serve them. It was like, why did you make me go through all of that? Because then
Right.
to make me look like that, because then it was like it looks like it's my rule. Whereas like I do believe in it, but
I'm
I'm
just
not the
trying not
one
to
in
get fired.
charge.
Yeah.
And there was one where I ended up walking out because they let the guy stay there and eat. And he made some comment about, and it was really stupid because it was like it didn't make any sense. He's like, "What's next? Whites only?" And I was like, "What the fuck?"
Sir.
And then when they let him sit, I was like, "Bye," and I left for the day.
Yeah.
I was just, and it was not a slow day. And they
Good
I
grief.
guess they understood, but they couldn't say no to a customer. Because what if he leaves a
Right.
bad review? And what if, because that I feel like is what corporations think about and what they care about,
Mhm.
because you should worry about what the customer thinks, but you should worry about what your employee thinks too. And when we allow people to just be assholes and then still cater to them, it just like
It creates the culture that we have.
yeah, it creates a culture that we have
Yeah.
where people think it's okay.
To treat us the way that they
The other day I was
Yeah.
hosting, and
Sorry.
this guy came in for a to go that he had
Mhm.
called in. So you have to pay when you get there. And there was a line of people waiting to pay. And he walks right up to the thing and he goes, "I have a to go." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Like if you could get in line." And he's like, "No, I already placed it online." I was like, "Yeah, all these people already eaten too. So if you could get in line and pay, for the food and he just kept saying things and all this, like, and I'm just like, what?
There
Like,
is
how have we created these people, this entitlement of like if you have to wait a second, you know what I mean? Like even though you're
Yeah.
just waiting your turn, all these other people are just as justified to pay for their food they just ate. Like why
Yeah.
he thought he was so special, and it's somebody who's come in before and he's never real pleasant to serve anyways. And I'm just like, I don't know. Our tipping culture has created some monsters too.
Yeah.
'Cause
Absolutely.
they're like
But
they hold us hostage
oftentimes
with
those
it.
people though don't tip. The people that act like that oftentimes aren't the good tippers. It's not
They're
like
not
The
the
worst ones
but they just keep
never tip
coming back.
well.
And
Mhm.
then one thing we haven't even touched on, I know we're talking a lot about serving, which
Yeah.
we're supposed to be talking about tipping, but when you go to a restaurant, are you mindful of the fact that whatever seat you're sitting in, that's somebody's section, and the longer you sit there, you know what I mean? Like that you could be potentially taking another table and a whole nother tip. Are you like
Yeah.
aware of that? Do you think of that?
Um, Not usually, actually, but we definitely don't try to. The only time we try to stick around is when we sit at the bar and we just like want to hang out for a while. But
Which in
Yeah.
that case, I'm
Yeah, and the
there's
bar is kind of completely different. I think with us, it's just groups of people who want to talk, which is great. Or they'll be doing business meetings, which is, that's fine. But you should take into account that, like, if you had actually ate like all the other tables and left and opened up that table, like there will be people that will
you
sit
could be
there for
earning more money,
hours, and you're literally just taking money out of your server's pocket. Which, and I'm not
especially if it's
saying you should
busy
have to
and there's no
rush,
tables.
but when
But
people
be
want to go
mindful
out
of
and
that.
work, maybe be mindful of if you're in a server section, like I guess tip like you're taking the time that you're
Right.
taking. You're renting her
basically
Oh,
booth.
that's a good
tipping.
point.
You are
Exactly.
renting that table from her because that's her only means of making money. And you're assigned your certain tables. And I know at all the places I've worked, that's all you have. So when people decide to squat and then like
Yeah, your
it's kind
manager's
of like
not like, no, you can take that one to make up for it. No,
no.
you're just
And you
stop.
can't say anything either. And it's not like we want to because we don't
No,
want to be mean, but it's also just like, do they not think about this at all? And
probably
obviously, you're
not.
a very mindful person and you haven't thought of that. So maybe people just aren't
Yeah.
thinking. If you want to
Yeah.
work at a place, go to some place like Starbucks.
Yes.
Or, but not a
When
sit
you don't
down
have a
restaurant.
meeting,
You
don't go somewhere
or if you
that.
want to
Yeah.
catch up with your friends,
Yes.
maybe treat it like you are sitting at the bar and continue to tip with your drinks.
Mhm.
Because you're
Yeah, there you
taking
go.
our real estate, our ability to make money.
Yes.
Yeah. What if, okay, other scenario since I haven't thought of this.
Okay.
If the section isn't very busy,
Yeah.
like if there's lots of open tables, is that okay to sit and just be
Yeah.
or
Yes.
okay.
Yeah. I think so. At least
If
that's
it's
why,
yeah, I mean,
like, if it's
a
really slow, because
day,
I'll have
yeah.
people that'll be like, is it okay? We want to sit for a
Mhm.
while, and I'll be like, yeah, we're good. I got tables. But if you are
Okay.
sitting in a booth,
Yeah, please do.
don't sit in some because like sometimes you only have one booth in your section and everybody wants the booth.
If
So
it's
they
a
will
slow
skip your
day,
section.
yeah.
If it's a slow day, they'll
You're
keep
never getting
skipping your
sat.
section because you're in a booth. So if you want to sit for a long time,
Uh,
sit in a table because everybody wants a booth.
Or just tip
Sure.
like you're renting.
Or tip like you're renting the space. Because booths get better tips. Booths get sat more often. You know what I mean? So like
That's
you don't
interesting
have,
and you're right.
yeah,
Mhm.
and I think there's so many things about so many different like that people just feel like people would understand that they don't. You know what I
I
mean?
feel like
About
this-
every industry.
This is why everyone I think should have to work in the customer service field. And I think like different, areas like retail,
Yeah.
everyone should have to do retail. Everyone should have to wait tables. Everyone should have to work at Starbucks, like
I worked at McDonald's, I worked at Subway, I
Mhm.
worked at Olive Garden, I worked at Ulta, I've worked at
Because it
Work a
gives you
return
I've done way
desk
too many
somewhere.
It
service
gives you an
jobs.
appreciation of the public and how to act in public, because
Yeah. Yeah, because then you don't want to be that person that
Mhm.
everybody's just
Oh,
like, oh God, they're like, now we have to deal
Yeah.
with this person.
Because I think we all get out of touch sometimes, with
Yeah.
because
Of
we're
course.
all focused on our own perspectives and we think, we're looking at it from our point of view and sometimes, we
Always.
forget to think of like what is that worker going through or, even on our side, sometimes you guys take a step back and be like, what is that customer going through? Why are they treating me this way? I mean,
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think it's something we all should
Yeah.
do as human beings, but
Seriously.
I feel like if everyone was made to work in that field, the world would be a happier place.
Yeah.
There'd be a lot more
we have some
understanding.
mandatory things
Yes.
everybody has to do. Like
Yes.
instead of
Speaking of everybody
mandatory
having
wartime, mandatory
Right,
service
exactly.
time.
Mandatory service.
speaking of everybody working those certain jobs though, there's a lot of argument over like, but there's a lot of high schoolers that work these jobs and do they need to be paid like a full wage? And I used to be able to see why it's like, oh yeah, you could pay high schoolers a little less, but guess what? Have you seen the price of college?
Yeah,
Like,
right.
Mhm.
have
You
you
expect
seen
them
the
to work
price of
through high school to
housing?
pay for college, and then
Well,
you're
and
gonna pay them
You
nothing.
can't
on
do
top
it.
of that, I think that's an excuse oftentimes of like, oh well, that's a job for high schoolers, like minimum wages for high schoolers. That's not true. Because if that was true, those businesses would only be open after school hours, but they're not. There's people,
Yep.
just because that, a 50-year-old person is working that job does not mean that they deserve to be paid less than you just because you think less of that job. They're fulfilling a need that you require,
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
if
We're
you're
giving
there,
them
you're
their
using their
time, which is
service.
all we
Yeah.
freaking have.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just because you don't
And I'm
respect the job for,
Yes.
doesn't mean that they don't deserve to be paid to live, just because a high schooler can do it doesn't mean that, an adult doing it doesn't deserve to be paid a livable wage,
Well, and
Well, and a little
everybody,
bit of gratitude goes a long way. Like,
Mhm.
yeah.
I'm so grateful for other people making my food when I go out to eat. Like, bless you for making it so I didn't have to eat or
Yeah.
make food tonight and
Yes.
for giving me something I can't cook or, all those things. And
I just hate cooking, so I'm so grateful for anybody that's cooking.
right?
Anybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Also, I just don't want to, I want to be nice. Like, and I try to be aware of that with people, whereas some people,
Mhm.
I don't think they care about. But I think that goes with people just don't think certain jobs are important or
Mhm.
valuable. And then they give those attributes to the person they're talking to.
Mhm.
But it's always really funny that people don't think those jobs are, important, but where are they and what are they doing? They're
Mhm.
using that service and they're
Exactly.
like, if you don't think it's important, don't use it.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, anyways, there's a few things that are like unto tipping that I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
Um, the okay, I've said there's one thing I hate a lot in this episode, but there's one thing and I hate, and it's would you like to donate to the Children's Heart Fund of blah, 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 blah,
Yes.
after everything? Because guess what? I love kids. I love donating to good causes. I'm all for all of that. I am not for giving money to Walmart so that they can write it off on their taxes as we're making this big donation later. Like, are you kidding me?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
That is the worst. That's the worst. And do I really know where it's going? No, I don't. But to
Mm-mm.
have somebody stare me down at the checkout and be like, "Do you hate children?" Like, I'm just going to ask you this right now, really loud, while people are behind you in line. Could you say your answer really loud? Yes or no? And to what amount would you like to pay?
Let me
Yeah.
have a megaphone.
Like,
20 cents. 20 cents. That's all she's leaving, folks.
right?
Looks like
That's
somebody
how
doesn't
much she
care about the
hates
kids.
children. Yeah. Like, I don't want to be guilted into like being altruistic and being
No.
philanthropic. It's especially
Or
when
by
it just
corporations
benefits.
that are the least philanthropic.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what? And I would be even like encouraged to do it a little bit if they would match the contribution or
Mhm.
something. Like, yeah, do that. I'll add some money in there. And it
Mhm.
would
Yeah.
be like less than what you make in interest for the day. So it would be no skin off your nose. Let's really, you want to do some good? Let's do some damn good, man. Let's get in there. But I don't want to be guilted into helping you get a tax break. Thank you. No.
Yeah.
So that one, no.
This is Lily time now.
Yep. Just keep
Yep.
it quiet.
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, so I don't know how
That's a
to
good
how
one
to
though.
wrap that
Yeah,
all
that
up,
is
but I think there's the other thing is we're the laughing stock of the entire world.
Yeah.
Other countries come here and they're like, "What is this? I'm expected to tip on top of this bill, on top of having to pay your tax." And like other countries are like, "This is ridiculous." And it has gotten ridiculous, and we need to maybe rein it in a little bit. Like let's let's find out how to do it right and do it right. And we don't need to be lining the pockets of the people who aren't providing the service.
Mhm.
That we pay for our meal for that, and that's great. Thank you for providing that service. And then if we want to give extra to the people who are actually serving us, that should be allowed as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And if you're mad that the bus boys aren't, or not the bus boys, but the people in the back aren't getting paid, You gotta pay them. You gotta pay the people
Mhm.
who work there. It should be on the employers to pay a base livable wage. And you can make tips above and beyond that, but it doesn't need to be like this craziness. I don't know. It's gotten out of control.
It
It
definitely
has.
has.
And I mean, and all we could do is have a conversation about it and hope other
Mhm.
people are having a conversation about it. And then eventually we all find some way to get some traction moving in a different direction. Um,
Yeah.
I keep hearing though, like you can't fix broken with broken.
Mhm.
Like it's almost like we needed to start doing things differently outside of,
Well,
and so I don't know how we do that, but
And it
well,
all starts
maybe
with voting local, like
of
you know,
course,
local
yeah,
elections and
maybe something we could do at the end of this one. I could put in a little research and we could find the restaurants that are paying a livable wage and like we could give
highlight
them
them.
a shout out. Yeah.
Yeah,
Highlight and support the businesses that are doing it right. So
yeah.
that's the very basic way to get it done.
Awesome. Okay. Well, you mean like right now, like you'll find them and send them to me, and I'll send it to Jessie, and then she can pop them up. Is that what you're talking about, or you mean like
If I can find them, I will do it.
Okay, cool.
So
Lily is just not happy about any of that.
like,
She thinks
guys.
she's not a fan of tipping.
No,
No,
She's
or she is.
she is. She is.
Yes,
She's
she's
like, my mama lives off of those. So.
Yeah. Anyways,
she can tip with kisses.
yeah. However, like we'd said, tipping in a lot of other industries where it's just become a thing recently, and I don't feel like I know who it's going to, or you know,
Mhm.
and feeling kind of guilted into that as well when like I'm already paying for the service. Like, I think that needs to stop.
Yeah.
And selfishly because I know it's affecting the tips where people depend on it.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, and discomfort when you don't want to tip and it's not a tippable. I was gonna say tippable offense, and that got stuck in my head. Yeah. Anyway, if it is not a typically tipped, I am just on one.
Service.
Yeah, if it's not a typically tipped service and the social stigma of feeling stupid for not tipping, like I refuse to tip for bowling anymore. I'm not doing it.
who am I tipping? The balls?
Right? I should have been like, you have got some balls to ask me that. No, see what I did there? I made it funny. No, no, but I don't want to feel stupid at places when I don't want to tip. And I
Yeah.
want to tip the people properly who deserve and need it. So
Yeah.
that is all.
Did I tell you it's not government, but there what is it called? I had a patient who invited me to a thing that I'm gonna go. It's Chamber of Commerce. I'm gonna
Mhm.
try to go to a Chamber of Commerce event, which is just kind of starting to do like service things pretty much. Um
Okay.
getting like engaging in what's going on locally. So maybe
That's a good idea.
look into that there too. Maybe we could both do that and then maybe do a podcast on that. Maybe encourage more people to start
To get
because
involved.
Chamber of Commerce is not the government, but it's just your like just local
Yeah.
doing good for the community pretty much.
Yeah.
So
I like that.
a place to start.
My dad was in the
Anyways,
Chamber of Commerce, I think, when I was younger.
I
So
know more about the Chamber of Secrets, but I'm gonna
awesome.
learn.
Fantastic.
Are you showing to the phone?
Yep.
All right. Well, I guess we kind of I don't know. Did you have any other thoughts? Anything else?
I think
What
I
about
said
you?
it all.
Anything else you could think of?
I think we covered. We pretty much covered everything that
Yeah, I don't know.
I was thinking.
Yeah.
Well, and it was fun having you as a guest host.
Yes, it was nice talking to
Yes.
you.
Maybe one day you'll visit and get to meet
Yes.
Maya in person. And Lily.
You too.
Hold on. Come here. Don't yell at me. Don't yell at me. Don't do it.
Hi, Lily.
Hey, bye.
Hi. Thank you for visiting. We love babies.
Oh, there's a smile. Look at the camera.
Hi.
That's all. Here, talk to my kid.
I like
Right.
talking to kids.
I
They're
know
fantastic.
you do. Yeah, and Elena's back at school, so you didn't get to talk to her today.
I know.
Right. Well, I love
All
you,
right.
and Elilas, and I'll
Don't
talk
forget
to
to
you
tip your
later.
servers.
Yes,
Okay.
tip your servers.
Tip your
And,
servers. No one else.
no one else.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Well,
At your
Be a good human.
discretion.
at your discretion.
At your
Yes.
discretion.
But
All
yeah,
right.
just keep
Well,
some of these
Lilas.
things in mind.
Indeed.
All right. Well,
And
we'll
as
talk to
always,
you
don't be an
later.
asshole. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, don't be an
Mwah.
asshole.
Love you. Don't be an asshole. Not you. You know.
Any-
But yeah,
Anybody.
and like and subscribe.
Woo!
We're so good.
All right. Bye. Yeah.
Subscribe up there.
Subscribe.
There's a subscribe up there.
Okay.
Like the button.
Okay.